As beekeepers, we judge a queen's performance by her brood laying pattern and when those bees hatch, how productive they are, and how gentle they are. These are all secondary observations. The bees, on the other hand, know the queen up close and personal. Thus, we start to unwind the mystery of what happened in the Troy hive and why their queen was missing. To recap, we went into Troy yesterday and discovered about 9 superseed cells and no queen that we could find. We did notice we had brood that was, the youngest brood was probably about 3 or 4 days old. So something happened with the queen about 4 days ago. Our last visit in this hive was about 10 days ago, and at that time we had a good queen, good brood, and about 5 superseed cells. The logical conclusion would be that they swarmed. However, this 4-day timeline doesn't look good for a swarm. 2 or 3 of the days were kind of cold, kind of windy, and we had noticed very little activity at the hive on those days. On the warm day, we were out working the yard, taking tractor loads full of debris back in the woods, and passed the bee yard probably about 40 times and never worked maybe more than 400 feet from it. And I think we would have seen a swarm for sure. So if they didn't swarm, then what happened? Indeed, the population of the hive looked just as strong as it did on the last visit. But no queen.
If they have a queen, then this hive's going to do just fine.
It's important to note a subtle difference in between the cells found at the bottom of a frame, which are often called swarm cells, indicating the bees really want to swarm, and the cells found in the middle of the frame, which are often called superseed cells, in that they want to supersede their queen. Either cell being capped can initiate a swarm, but generally speaking, it kind of gives you an idea what the bees are thinking. If they didn't swarm, then what happened to the queen? Well, there's really only 2 other possibilities. One is she dropped dead, and the other is the bees killed her. Judging by the number of superseed cells we've run into over the past month, the bees didn't like something about her. There was something that troubled them. Whether this was genetic or whether it was that she actually was ill or defective, possibly she was producing an odd odor to them or a odd pheromone combination. Something tripped off the idea that this queen needed to be replaced. So usually, once the cells are capped, the queen gets the hint and leaves the hive along with a big chunk of the bees. What happens if she doesn't leave the hive? Well, there's 2 unfortunate outcomes. One is the bees may actually drive her out of the hive, literally push her out the front door to die. And the other is that they can ball up on the queen and basically murder her. That's why I call it the game of combs. So here we are 24 hours later taking a look at the Troy hive. And what I was met with is something our bee, Lisa, calls anger wings. This is the angry rustling noise you hear when bees are aggravated. And this hive, which had previously been very gentle, presented me with anger wings and a dozen stings, or at least a dozen stingers that I removed from my gloves. These guys were definitely queenless.
Thinking these guys
Since we had moved the one remaining superseed cell over to the new split, there was only one thing left to do, and that was to recombine these 2 hives, after carefully checking the split hive to make sure the queen wasn't still hiding out there.
Hector.
I went through that hive very carefully. It was only about 3 frames, and could not find a queen. They were a little jumpy, but they did have a queen cell. So we moved them all together into one big hive. With one queen cell.
I don't think we have a queen.
Hopefully this queen will hatch and mate, and the hive will return to its productive nature. But bees will be bees, and their plans may not always be our plans.